Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaimudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Om Agnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatharini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktarvrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So we're starting a new section of Srimad Bhagavatam. So 14, chapter 14 till 17, including 17, are about King Citraketu and how he became Vritrasura. So Vamshi Prabhu, please note. So from today's lecture, so the topic should be King Citraketu. Okay. So this is very, very interesting. Okay. Yeah. So this is a very interesting episode. It teaches a lot of lessons, especially for how you to deal with other devotees, and also some sense for non-devotees, how it is difficult for them to understand the mood of devotees, right? So it's very, very nice. So we'll discuss this. Shri Parikshituvacha Rajastamasvabhavasya Brahman Vritrasya Papmanah Narayane Bhagavati Katam Asid Dridha Matihi. Very, very nice question, King Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj is asking, O learned Brahmana, demons are generally sinful. Papmanaha. Being obsessed with the modes of Rajatama. So Rajatama Swabhavasya. Vritrasya Papmanaha. So is sinful. And he was obsessed with the modes of passion and ignorance, generally, all demons. How then could Vritrasura have attained such exalted love for Supreme Person of Godhead Narayana? Now, Prabhupada is helping us understand what state Vritrasura was in. While the verse is saying, Narayane Bhagavati Dridhamatihi, strong consciousness. Now, what does this strong consciousness means? Prabhupada is saying that it is exalted love for Narayana. Very strong consciousness. Krishna, very strong Krishna consciousness. Means like topmost platform of love for Narayana. In this material world, everyone is obsessed with the modes of passion and ignorance. Again, so Prabhupada is using this word obsessed. What is the meaning of obsessed? Preoccupy or fill the mind continually and to a troubling extent. It's very, very important. Liking something is okay, but being obsessed means we are preoccupied by that. And to a troubling extent. Now, troubling extent means that it doesn't let us remain peaceful. We are continuously thinking about that. Obviously, we can understand that most jivas in the material world, they're obsessed with material things. And unfortunately, most jivas are in the mode of passion and ignorance. So this is what Prabhupada is saying. Everyone is obsessed. Everyone is obsessed with the modes, meaning their nature is like this. So they're preoccupied by these modes of passion and ignorance, meaning they're preoccupied by doing actions in the mode of passion and ignorance. However, unless one conquers these modes, and comes to the platform of goodness, there's no chance of one's becoming a pure devotee. Now, this is very, very important. Coming to the platform of goodness. So a little bit we'll discuss about this. So how do we conquer the modes? So for that, Krishna describes this, that devotion is the path. Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridabhrataha. Dridam matihi dridabhrataha. Persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, not just in the previous life, they've acted piously in this life also, whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, stopped, meaning no more sinful actions, and who are freed from the duality of illusion. They're freed from the duality of illusion and engaging themselves in my service with determination. Who can do that? Who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful reactions are completely eradicated, and who are freed from duality of delusion. Since Vritrasura was among the demons, Parikshit Maharaj wondered how it was possible for him to become such an exalted devotee. So we know that to become a devotee, we have to go beyond goodness, Shuddha Sattva. But of course, our natural path of progression is to move gradually upward from ignorance to passion to goodness, and then to transcend goodness. Because only when we transcend the goodness, then we can become a pure devotees. Pure devotee. So many things are coming to my mind. So we are currently stuck in the lower modes. Now, also elsewhere, Prabhupada writes saying that one who is engaged full time in devotional service also should have come to the platform of goodness or should have transcended goodness. Now, for most devotees who are practicing Krishna consciousness while parallelly engaging in material duties, material activities, what happens is, while the process to transcend the modes is devotion and we are engaged in devotion, because we are not fully committed, not fully surrendered, we are under the influence of the modes still. Now, what are these modes? So these modes, predominantly passion and ignorance. So there are still some sins that we do. So devotees do two kinds of things. One is devotees can do sins and devotees can do offenses. So sins are what are not acceptable in the Shastra from a material perspective. From a material life in this material world, there are good and bad things, and the bad things are disapproved things are called sins. Now, as devotees, practicing devotees, we sometimes do sins, sometimes do offenses. So the sins are actually, especially for those devotees who have been initiated, if we live a sinful life, the effects go to the guru, right? Because at the time of initiation, it is a mutual contract between the guru and the disciple. The disciple is saying, I'm not going to be sinful, I'm going to stop all sinful activities from now on. And guru says, okay, even if you do by chance, I will protect you, right? So if we do sinful things, then it goes to the guru, and then guru has to suffer. Second thing is, if we do offenses, our bhakti is affected, and we might even suffer drastically if the offense is very, very severe. We might even suffer materially, not just devotion. Devotion will anyway get destroyed because it is mad elephant offense, right? Especially Vaishnava aparad. So we might get destroyed materially also. So offense is obviously more disruptive, dangerous than sin. But sins are also something we have to keep away, because he says once sinful actions are completely eradicated. Now there is one illusion amongst devotees saying that there are only 4 pillars of sins. So if we don't do this, then we are done. Of course, even those 4 pillars, not everybody respects the four pillars fully, right? Um, so we have to follow the four pillars. We have to, follow the constraints or restrictions on meat eating, illicit sex, gambling, and intoxication. Um, but along with that, there are other actually sins also. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he is writing in, I think, Chaitanya. Uh, I can't remember which book was that. Shikshamrita, I think. Chaitanya Shikshamrita, yes. So he gives other pillars of sins. So I had written them down somewhere. Let me just 1 second. It's important actually for devotees to understand this, that it's not just that much. So one is violence, whatever I remember. Violence, then killing. 1 second. No, which book? It's this. Uh, yeah, yes. Ah. First is violence. Okay, violence is basically uh, troubling any jiva. No, sorry. First is killing animals is the first one. Um, uh, Second one is violence. Killing animals is, we know, like directly killing animals. Second in violence. So violence towards or cruelty. Sorry, first is violence. Second is cruelty. Cruelty towards any jiva. Um, Cruelty towards any jiva, right? Be it animals or humans. So if we are the cause for some jiva suffering, we are not killing the jiva, but if we are showing cruelty, mm, that is sinful. Third, which is actually very, very important, which I see unfortunately very prevalent amongst devotees, is hypocrisy, right? Saying one thing, doing something else. Saying something in front, saying something behind. This is also sin. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is writing this sin. Okay. Then intoxication, then kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, all of them are sins. Then telling lies, showing disrespect to others, especially whom we consider authorities. Disrespecting. Then selfishness. Most of the times we are just more bothered about ourselves than other devotees, which is also not good. And of course, all other jivas also. Being unclean is also a sin. Being unclean is a sin. Then yeah, destructive activities, he says. So like this, there are other aspects of sin which we have to avoid. So we have to very consciously avoid these things in our dealings with this world. And of course, when we come to dealing with devotees, then we should keep offenses away. We should obviously be respectful, because not being respectful is a sin. So not being respectful to a Vaishnava is worse, right? And initially we'll be disrespectful in the mind, then we'll be disrespectful in the actions, and then it is destructive. Hmm. um, of course, also we have to understand what is Vaishnava Aparad. So there's a book called Vaishnava Ninda, again by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he describes what actually is a is considered an aparadha. So first thing, the multiple things, root or the crux of the discussion is that if there is constructive inputs being given to somebody for their improvement, because without that their bhakti will get destroyed, that is not technically considered as an offense. Of course, then there are other considerations, whether we have the right to tell somebody, etc., etc. But if suppose somebody is really like bad, doing something which is really destructive and nobody is telling them, and if somebody is able to tell them, but with respect, not disrespectfully, but with this respect, may not be considered an offense. But it also depends on whether the Vaishnava is ready to hear from us. So we have to be very careful, which is why normally it is recommended saying that just it has to go through authority. We should not take things in our hands, because if in case it is not correct, if it is beyond our adhikara to speak, then we will be in trouble. Mm. So that we have to avoid. We have to avoid these sins, and we have to do devotional service, tivrena bhakti yogena. When we do intense devotional service, then we can transcend the modes. Then we can transcend the modes. And also, we should also avoid prajalpa. Prajalpa is one kind of prajalpa is about generally loose talk about material things. The other is also about devotees. We should not talk about other devotees behind. It's just unnecessary. We just, yeah, we should not do that. So there are so many things to be, we should keep away from, otherwise it's not easy for us to, because we are obsessed with this. So this obsession towards modes of passion and ignorance has to be converted, has to be changed. Right now we have to develop obsession towards Krishna. Now we can't develop obsession towards Krishna till we are still obsessed with this kind of material dealings. Our mind is naturally in that platform. So what we should do, at least amongst the in the association of devotees, we should do Krishna Katha. We should talk about Krishna. We should not talk about other devotees. That's not Krishna Katha. This person is like that, that person did this, that, that's not Krishna Katha. That is just one more form of prajalpa, you can say. Just our material mindset. We should be constructive, and we should talk about things that can, with which we can move forward in devotion. Otherwise, this obsession is very severe, is very bad. Meaning it will just hold us tightly, bind us tightly, material life. So we have to be very, very careful about what all thoughts are going on in our head, right? Are they really pure devotional thoughts? If they are not, then, and based on whether we are doing a sin or offense, we might just get badly affected by that. So we have to be very, very careful. So that's why in this verse, Krishna is saying sinful actions are completely eradicated and free from duality. This is again very difficult for many devotees, right? Like we become free from duality when we only realize that I am not this body. Forget about I am spirit soul, because that is very difficult to remember. At least we should remember that I am not this body. And this duality is because of thinking that I am the body. See, we likes and dislikes should not come into devotion. We should not have this mindset of like and dislike. Especially I see a lot of devotees have likes and dislikes about services, likes and dislikes about some type of prasadam. I like this, I don't like this. No, all these dualities we should keep away from devotion. So these are all very, very deep topics. Each of these we can go on discussing, but we should understand that all this is just material modes. Mm. So this verse is very, very significant. If we are actually able to do this, only then we can engage ourselves in with Krishna service with determination. Determination means what? That is something might be difficult to achieve, but we might just be persistent, irrespective of all these things. Some dualities are there. Now it suddenly become very cold. Now these things will not prevent us from engaging in our service with determination. Mm. So very important to note this. Which is why Prabhupada, contextually, whatever he writes is so powerful, but sometimes, we cannot understand the purport, the depth of the purport. So we have to study Bhagavatam in association of other devotees. Only then we can get into the depth of things. देवानां शुद्धसत्त्वानां ऋषीणां चामलात्मनां भक्तिर्मुकुन्दचरणे न प्रायेणोपजायते. Devanam Shuddha Sattvanam. Demigods situated in the mode of goodness and great saints, uh, cleansed of the dirt of material enjoyment, hardly ever render pure devotional service at the lotus feet of Mukunda. Bhakti Mukunda Charane na prayena upajayate. Does not develop generally. See, such a difficult thing to come to the stage of pure devotional service. There's no purport here, but striking verse. Even if Shuddha Sattvanam Rishin, Devanam Shuddha Sattvanam Rishinam, all of these are, they're purified. Here Shuddha Sattva doesn't mean that transcended, but they are in the mode of goodness. Even for them, Mukunda Charane Bhakti na upajayate, Rayana na upajayate. Mostly doesn't develop, doesn't wake up. Therefore, how could Vritrasura become such a great devotee? This is his question. So it's not easy to come to pure devotion. It's easy to come to devotion compared to pure devotion. Even coming to devotion is difficult, but compared to pure devotion, coming into devotion is easy, but coming into pure devotion is very, very difficult. And in this, again, talking about pure devotion, there are very subtle things that we do which indicate that we are not in the pure state. We might not be okay, one stage is grossly materialistic, grossly engaged in material things. Then there are subtly engaged in material things. La Puja Pratishta. This is subtle. So it is not easy. It is not easy to come to pure devotion. So what should our mood be? Our mood should be, it's such a rare thing. I absolutely want to get to this platform. So what is it that I need to do? What is it that I should avoid? One thing about pure devotional service is, okay, just not doing anything for personal benefit. But sometimes even in the name of devotion, people are looking for La Puja Pratishta, which is personal benefit, which has nothing to do with pure devotion. And does it matter who we really are as long as we are able to serve nicely the lotus feet of Krishna? But then, yeah, people want to be in power, people want to bring down others, people, all this is not required. Not required. This is not pure devotion. So, which is why Parikshit Maharaj is saying, even great souls find it difficult to come to this stage. How did Vritrasura manage this? रजोभिः समसङ्ख्याताः पार्थिवैरिह जन्तवः तेषां ये केचने हन्ते श्रेयो वै मनुजादयः. This material world, there are as many living entities as atoms. Among these living entities, a very few are human beings, and among them, few are interested in following religious principles. Shreya. Ihante Shreya. Shreya means religious principles here. प्रायो मुमुक्षवस्तेषां केचनैव द्विजोत्तम Mumukshunam sahasreshu kaschinmuccheta siddhyati. Now, best of Brahmana, Shukadeva Goswami, out of many persons who follow religious principles, only a few desire liberation from the material world. Meaning, most people who follow religious principles want to remain within this material world and enjoy material happiness. Only few desire liberation. Among many thousands who desire liberation. And see, look at this. First is saying, a very few are human beings that we know. 4 lakh species. Among them, few are interested in dharma. Most of people are not interested in dharma. They are interested in sense gratification, in adharmic way. And then amongst those who are interested in dharmic way, even there, most of them want sense gratification only. And that is why here saying only few desire liberation. Among many thousands who desire liberation. Now, first of all, this number itself is less in general population. Then among many thousands, one may actually achieve liberation. They might be trying to achieve liberation, but only very few among many thousands. One may achieve liberation, giving up material attachment to society, friendship, and love. Prabhupada used to keep repeating this. Society, friendship, and love. Country, home, wife, and children. And among many thousands of such liberated persons, not who are trying to achieve liberation, among many thousands of such liberated persons, one who can understand the true meaning of liberation is very rare. Siddhyati, perfection of liberation. Prabhupada is explaining, saying that understanding what really liberation means is very, very rare. There are 4 classes of men, namely karmis, jnanis, yogis, and bhaktas. This statement pertains especially to karmis and jnanis. A karmi tries to be happy within this material world by changing from one body to another. His objective is bodily comfort, either in this planet or in another. When such a person becomes a jnani, however, he aspires for liberation from material bondage. Among many such persons who aspire for liberation, one may actually be liberated during his life. Such a person gives up his attachment for all these things. Among many such persons who are in the vanaprastha stage, one may understand the value of becoming a sannyasi, completely accepting the renounced order of life. Of course, Prabhupada has not taken this to the next level of saying that the real meaning of liberation is to engage in pure devotion. Muktanamapi siddhanam narayana parayanaha sudurlabha prashantatma kotishvapi mahamune. Yeah, so now he's saying here, among many millions who are liberated and perfect. Oh, okay, so previous verse was siddhaye. Siddhaye means perfection, which is sannyas. Okay, I didn't understand it right. So what Prabhupada is saying here is that this true meaning of liberation is actually to come to the siddha stage of liberation, means coming to sannyasi, completely renounced order of life. Now in this verse, Parikshit Maharaj is saying, out of many millions who are liberated and perfect in knowledge of liberation, meaning the sannyasis, one may be a devotee of Lord Narayana or Krishna. Such devotees who are fully peaceful are extremely rare. Prashantatma, Sudurlabha, again, Sudurlabha. Who Narayana Parayanaha, who has come to accepting Narayana as everything. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Very, very rare. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the following purport to this verse. Simply desiring mukti or liberation is insufficient. One must become factually liberated. So first is simply desiring mukti is no use. One has to actually come to the stage of liberation. When one understands the futility of the materialistic way of life, one becomes advanced in knowledge, and therefore he situates himself in vanaprastha order, unattached to family, wife, and children. Now, see, Prabhupada again here is also explaining varnashrama, and he's saying if you are in grihastha, you can't become unattached. Unattached meaning like you still have responsibility towards your family, which you have to do. Once you crossed Grihastha, then you come into situate yourself in Vanaprastha. Then one should then further progress to platform of sannyas, never to fall again and be afflicted by material life. But it all starts with understanding the futility of material way of life. This is the important thing. You have to understand the futility, uselessness. Futility means uselessness. We have to understand how this materialistic way of life is useless, which we can understand if we are in a Bhagavatam class. But when we go out into the, now back to our world, from the Bhagavatam world, then we might forget. And it takes continuous hammering for us to even remember it, even after outside the Bhagavatam class. Even though one desires to be liberated, this does not mean he is liberated. Only rarely is someone liberated. Indeed, all the many men take sannyas because of their imperfections. They again become attached to women, material activities, social welfare work, and so on. So it's very difficult to actually remain sannyasi also. Gnanis, yogis, and karmis devoid of devotional service are called offenders. Okay, so this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says Mayavadi Krishna Aparadi. One who thinks that everything is Maya, instead of thinking that everything is Krishna, is called an Aparadi or offender. So Prabhupada is saying here, if somebody doesn't have devotional service, they will think that everything is Maya. Although Mayavadi is impersonalists, are offenders at the lotus feet of Krishna, they may nonetheless be counted among the Siddhas, those who have realized the self. They may be considered nearer to spiritual perfection because at least they have realized what spiritual life is. If such a person becomes a Narayana Parayana, is better than a Jivan Mukta or a liberated, one who is liberated or perfect. This requires higher intelligence. So, Prabhupada is saying they're offenders. Nonetheless, they may be counted among Siddhas who realize the self. Now, which means that these two are this. Yeah, just that because somebody has realized the self doesn't mean that he's a pure devotee or he's even a devotee, right? He might have realized the self, but he might still be an offender at the lotus feet of Krishna, considering that Krishna is also Maya. Krishna's body is also Maya. So they may be considered nearer to spiritual perfection, nearer than somebody who is not in spiritual life at all. That way nearer. Because at least they have realized what spiritual life is. If such a person becomes a Narayana Parayana, then it is better than being a liberated soul. But this requires higher intelligence. The two kinds of jnanis, one is inclined to devotional service and the other to impersonal realization. Impersonalists generally undergo great endeavor for no tangible benefit, and therefore it is said that they are husking paddy that has no grain. The other class of jnanis, whose jnana is mixed with bhakti, are also of two kinds. Those who are devoted to the so-called false form of Supreme Lord, and those who understand the Supreme Person Godhead as Satchidananda Vigraha, the actual spiritual form. The Mayavadis worship Narayana or Vishnu with the idea that Vishnu has accepted a form of Maya and that the ultimate truth is actually impersonal. The pure devotee, however, never thinks that Vishnu has accepted a body of Maya. Instead, he knows perfectly well that the original absolute truth is the Supreme Person. Such a devotee is actually situated in knowledge. See, we might have not gone through all this, word jugglery, but we have come, fortunately, to accepting Krishna as the Supreme Person, as the absolute truth. He's the Supreme Person. So we have crossed beyond big jnanis, and he never merges in the Brahman effulgence. This is the important verse for those who think they are liberated. Yenne ravindaksha vimukta maninas tvayasta bhavada vishuddha buddhayah aruhya kruchrena parampadam tataha patantyado nadrita yushmadangrayah. So important thing here is anadrita yushmadangrayah. They are avishuddha buddhayah, and they patanti. Patanti from where? Parampadam. They've reached the topmost platform, topmost destination, but they patanti ado, they fall down. Why? Because of anadhrita yushmadangrayaha. They have no respect for the lotus feet of the Lord. Actually, this one, anadhrita, no other, no respect. So Prabhupada is saying here that they do not take shelter at your lotus feet. Elsewhere he translates it as he doesn't have they don't have respect for your lotus feet. So they are thinking, Vimukta Manina. They are thinking that they are liberated. But they are Avishuddha Buddhaya. They are impure. Because they don't have devotion. Aruhya, they climbed up. They rise to the highest point of liberation by all these austerities, penances, etc. But they are sure to fall down. Because Anadrita Yushmadangraya. Then Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, Avajananti mam mudha manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Param mudha, rascals. Prabhupada's translation of rascals means mudha, fools. Param bhavam ajananto. They do not know my transcendental nature. And that I am the Supreme, Bhuta Maheshwaram. And that I have taken shelter of a material body. Manushim tanum. They don't know me, they're avajananti. And why? Because they're mudha. Muda see that Krishna acts exactly like a human being. They deride the transcendental form of the Lord because they do not know the Param Bhavam, his transcendental form of activities. So Krishna further says, Mogasha Moga Karmano, Moga Gnana Vichetasaha. Rakshasim Asurim Chaiva Prakritim Mohinim Shritaha. Mogasha Moga Karmano. Completely bewildered, deluded, bewildered. They're attracted by demoniac and atheistic views. Moga Gnana. Vichetasaha. They're in a very bad state of consciousness. In the deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, fruitive activities, culture of knowledge are all defeated. Mohinim Ashritaha. Mohinim Shritaha. Such persons do not know that Krishna's body is not material. There's no distinction between Krishna's body and his soul, but because less intelligent men see Krishna as a human being, they deride him. They cannot imagine how a person like Krishna could be the origin of everything, Govindam Adipurusha. Such persons are described as Moga Shaha, baffled. What they desire for the future will be baffled, meaning they won't achieve whatever they are looking for. Even if they apparently engage in devotional service, they are described as Moga Shaha because they ultimately desire to merge into Brahman effulgence. Those who aspire to be elevated to the heavenly planets by devotional service will also be frustrated. Because this is not the result of devotional service. However, they are also given a chance to engage in devotional service and be purified. Bhagavatam says, Shrunvatam Swakata Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Hridayantastho Yabhadrani Vidnoti Surutsatam. Shrunvatam Swakatha. Swakatha. Katha about Krishna. Punya Shravana Kirtana. Just by hearing and glorifying his punya, it is glorious. Hridayantastho Yabhadrani. All the Abhadra. Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu. Vidhunoti. Dhunoti means wash. Vidhunoti means like completely taken away. So Krishna, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who relishes his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So this is specifically talking about as Paramatma, a role of Paramatma. So he cleanses. No, sorry, this is talking about Krishna only, but there's some connection with soul, super soul. He cleanses the desire for material attachment, enjoyment from the heart of the devotee. How? uh, when who relishes his messages. So we have to relish Krishna's message. So Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. If we relish the message, then what happens? The abhadrani, all the unclean things in the heart, they go away. Mm. But what is the process? Shrunvatam swakatha Krishna. Punya Shravana Kirtan. So Shrunvatam. So it is, we have properly heard and chanted. Shravana Kirtanaha. Then, unless the dirt within the core of one's heart is cleansed away, one cannot become a pure devotee. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. Therefore, the word Sudurlabhaha, very rarely found, is used. Not only among hundreds and thousands, but among millions of perfectly liberated souls, a pure devotee is hardly ever found. So just imagine how great these pure devotees are. Therefore, the words Kotishvapi are used herein. Sri Madhvacharya gives the following quotations from Tantra Bhagavata. Navakotyastu devanam rishaya sapta kotayaha narayanaya narayanayanah narayanayanah sarve ekechittat parayanaha. There are 90 million demigods and 70 million sages who are all called Narayanayana. Narayanayana means who have taken shelter of Narayana, devotees of Lord Narayana. Among them, only few are Narayana Parayana. Ye kechittat Parayanaha. Narayana Deva Rishadyas Tat Parayanaha Brahmadhyaha Kechanaiva Syuhu Siddho Yogyas Sukham Labham. The difference between Siddhas and Narayana Parayanas is that direct devotees are called Narayana Parayanas, whereas those who perform various types of mystic yoga are called Siddhas. So basically, very, very rare to reach this stage of pure devotion. And that too, going beyond Vaikuntha to Krishna is even one more level of difficulty. Going to Vaikuntha, if you do with Vaidhi Bhakti, properly follow rules and regulations, surrender to spiritual master, is relatively much, much, much easier to go to Vaikuntha. But going to Goloka is, just imagine, you have to first forget that Krishna is the Supreme Lord if you want to go to Goloka. So it's super tall order. Who can forget that Krishna is Supreme Lord? I mean, we are in this material where we'll say, okay, we'll forget everybody else. We'll remember Krishna because he's going to protect us. Now, these devotees, they don't even want any of this protection. They just want Krishna. They just love Krishna. They want Krishna. They don't care about their material life, about whether they're alive, they're not alive. They don't even bother. They just so purely love Krishna. So such an exalted state it is. Not easy to get there. But getting to just see out of many thousands, hardly a pure devotee is found. Hardly ever found. So that's our goal. That's what Prabhupada created ISKCON for. ISKCON is an institute of pure devotional service. So we might get distracted by so many things, but we should realize that we are just cheating ourselves of the topmost goal, which is to become a pure devotee of Krishna. Mm, mm. So yeah, nice verse. Okay, yeah. So I'll stop here. If anybody has any questions, comments, anything. Okay, no comments. So fine, we'll close here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat